Hello, my name is Catalina. I'm from the University of Göttingen, where I study modern Indian studies. And for crossing borders, contesting boundaries, the title of my paper is From Yemen to Malabar, Mophlas, Mandi, and Maritime Trade in the Indian Ocean. I will start by talking a little bit about Malabar and why was it known as the Garden of Spices. In his book about Magellan's discovery of a new route to India, Stefan Zweig was declaring that at the beginning there were spices. Spices were what motivated many nations to adventure into dangerous journeys on the sea, to trade gold for pepper, or to surround the whole earth in order to reach the famous gardens of spices. There is even a famous legend that says that one of the reasons for which the Roman Empire fell was because it had to pay so much gold for pepper that it became poor. Before Europe got a hold on this desired market, and before many nations started to find different and cheaper ways to reach India, there were some people who were already having a monopoly over the spice trade, the Arabs. Experienced seafarers with good knowledge of geography, physics, mathematics, astrology, and with good connections in different seaports in the Indian Ocean, Arabs were the only ones mastering the art of spice trade. Among them, there were some who were famous for being renowned Islamic scholars, masters of commerce and sea trade, and very good with Sufism and Islamic knowledge. One such melting pot of Islamic knowledge was Yemen, more specifically the Hadramaut region, where we can find the Tarim village. The city of Tarim, or the village of Tarim, the way it was called before, is also known as the place of miracles, because many scholars and Sufis and Islamic teachers were residing there. This is a picture of Tarim. Most of the descendants of Prophet Muhammad are said to have come from this region. And they are also called, apart from Hadrami, they were also called the Saids. This is to show respect because their relationship with Prophet Muhammad was giving them a status wherever they were going. So in my paper, I will talk about how the Hadrami traders from Yemen shaped the Malabar coast through spice trade. First of all, I will mention a local cosmopolitanism that they created through trade and mercantile activities. Because Indian Ocean port towns were known as cosmopolitan spaces linking littoral regions of East Africa, Burma, Malaya, and the Persian Gulf with India. Second, I will talk about Sufism, the special, unique style of Islam that the Hadramis brought on the Malabar coast, and the way they converted the local population through the policy of Sulhi-Kul, which means peace with all. This means they managed to convert the local population in a very peaceful manner. In the end, I will also mention some influences that these Hadrami traders had on the local cuisine. First of all, I was stating that I will talk about the coastal cosmopolitanism that was created on the Malabar coast via spice trade. When I mention cosmopolitanism, I understand it in Kant's words, which means a universalist perspective emerging from Western theoretical and philosophical outlooks and rooted in the fundamental work of Kant, the way I said earlier. So cosmopolitanism is a philosophy that urges all to be citizens of the world, thereby creating a worldwide community of humans committed to common values. The pre-modern history of Indian Ocean regions has been characterized by cosmopolitanism stemming from trade and mercantile activities. So basically, they were using the spice trade in order to create some networks in the Indian Ocean. And by creating these networks, they were also helping spread Islamic knowledge, Islamic law, and even it was like a missionary activity in order to um, widen the networks they were having through trade mainly. So because of the being masters of spice trade, they were creating a melting pot of cultures, and they were bringing a lot of influences from abroad and also from their place of origin. This happened in Malabar, on gastronomy, on dressing styles, on architecture even. In terms of religion, I will mainly talk about Sufism and the way it was brought to Malabar. So the role of Sufis was an important factor in the spread of Islam, not only in Malabar, but elsewhere in the world as well. Their harmonious and passive means of propagation, policy of sulhi kul, which means peace with all, and simple and pious life, attracted a vast number of people to Islam. Sufis lived among people and shared their joys and sorrows. Some scholars suggested that the influence of Sufism in Malabar wasn't so big and that Sufi missionary activities were hardly seen in Malabar. However, there are many signs, there is a lot of evidence of Sufi activities in the region. And for example, we have a lot of Sufi devotional songs called malas, and I will talk about this later. Malik ibn Dinar is known as a propagator of Islam in Malabar and perhaps the most prominent one in the region. He was coming from Iraq, but he is also the disciple of a Sufi scholar. And he was responsible for a systematized missionary work after constructing mosques in different places in Malabar. He was coming from Iraq and not from Yemen. But most of the people and most of the scholars who came to spread Islamic knowledge in the region were coming from Hadramaut region in Yemen. And most of the Sufis were preaching the Qadiriyya order of Sufism. And this specific group of Sufi scholars were known as the Makdums, coming from Hadramaut region, the same region that I was mentioning before. When Sufism developed into orders, which called tarikaf in the 12th century, their activities reached Malabar as well. All four important orders of Sufism had their preachers and centers at different parts of the region, but the most popular one was the Qadiriyya of Shaykh Muhyiddin Abdul Qadir. In Malabar, the order was preached by the Makdums, who came to Malabar from Hadramaut of South Arabia. In the picture, we have the Kuba of Kondoti. It's a worship site in Kerala. But the most popular region where we can see the influence of the Arabic traders, of the Arab traders, is Ponnani, a place which is also called the Mecca of Malabar. Another Sufi order who came from Malabar, from Yemen, and the most popular one actually, is the Balawis. And the one who introduced this Sufi order in Malabar in 1748 is Sheikh Jifri of Hadramaut. The arrival of Sheikh Jifri of Hadramaut in Calicut was a turning point in the history of Sufism in Malabar. He introduced his family Sufi order called the Ba'alawi, an offshoot of the Qadiriyya, to Malabar. About the same time, Sayyid Abdurrahman Aidarus of Hadramaut, a relative of Sheikh Jifri, established his monastery, his Kwana, at Ponani. Both became spiritual leaders, and the people, particularly the lower castes, because they were the most interested in converting, moved in flows to these leaders, and they were very eager to accept Islam. The popularity of Said Alawi increased so much that he came to be regarded as the Qutub al-Zaman, which means the pivot of the age. Renowned ulamas and Sufis of the time became his spiritual disciples. He was the motivating spirit of Mophlas in the period of their struggles against the British. And paradoxically, it was during the same period that the conversions increased rapidly. So basically, by converting, people were gathered in order to fight the colonial rule. So they were interested in converting also because these people were helping them becoming one in front of the enemies. That's why the conversions were increased in number during the British time. Another evidence for the presence of Sufism in Malabar are the Sufi devotional songs. And the most famous one is the Muhyiddin Mala. The birth of this song tradition dates back to Muhyiddin Mala, and it was written by Qazi Muhammad in the 17th century. And it commemorates the miraculous stories of Muslim saints or heroic events in the community's history. This popular devotional classic, composed in 1607 AD, depicts the history of Sufi saint Sheikh Muhyiddin Abdul Qadir and his mystical powers. And here I found the translation of a part of the mala of this Sufi devotional song. And we can see that basically the lyrics of the song are depicting a very proud portrait of this sheikh who was born at the port of Calicut. And these kind of songs are still present today in Malabar, and especially in the Muslim weddings, we can hear them. And it is very interesting because girls are the ones who have to sing this song in order to get married, and this tradition is still carried on even nowadays. In the end, I would like to talk about another way in which Hadrami traders or the traders from Yemen influenced and reshaped the Malabar coast is through food. The settling of traders on the coast had a great influence on the local cuisine as well. For example, Mandi, which is a famous Yemeni dish served in Malabar, originates from Hadramaut, from Yemen, where the traders came from, and it consists of meat and rice with a blend of spices called hawaij. Another influence from Yemen is the popular Sulaimani tea, usually drunk after a biryani meal. The tea is spiced with cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, ginger, and it has a dash of lemon as well. It is said that the tea got its name from an Arab merchant called Sulaiman, or from the Sulaimani Bohras, a community of traders who are also coming from the same region of Hadramaut in Yemen. In the end, biryani is similar to mandi, and it also consists of rice and meat mixed with onions and spices. However, the difference between biryanis from other parts of India lies in the style of cooking and the types of rice used. In Malabar, biryani is considered a special dish cooked for Mophla weddings, and it uses a style of cooking called dum cooking, which means the rice and meat are cooked separately and then they are layered and steamed in order to melt the flavors. Biryani is a famous dish in many parts of India, but what is different in Malabar is that it is cooked in a style very close to the Arabic way of cooking rice. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.